amazing Australians and the story of their lives. You're tuned to Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald.
Hello and welcome, listeners. Now, the English Channel is a challenge at the best of times for ships that traverse its hugely busy waters. So imagine a swimmer deciding to cross from England to France and cope with the enormously choppy waters and avoiding those ships. And imagine that swimmer has had to carry out the training for such an endeavour in the outback of Australia, where the dam on his property or a swimming pool hours away are his training grounds. Well, my guest today, Brendan Cullen, overcame those challenges and achieved a dream, and in doing so, not only became a legend, but also helped himself and all those who suffer from depression. Brendan has written a wonderful book called The Desert Swimmer, which talks about his life and how he came to complete such a feat, not just once, but twice, as well as the Catalina Channel in the USA. Welcome, Brendan.
G'day, Rosemary. How are you, mate?
Very, very well. Now, tell us, just for our listeners, what's it like out there at the moment? Have you had any rain, Brendan? And more importantly, have you got enough fuel and fertiliser?
It's tough in regards to fuel, but I must admit where we are in the far western New South Wales, we've had some incredible rain and 125 mil in the last 3 weeks, which is nearly our average rainfall for the year. Our average rainfall is 175 mil. And so I live about 60 kilometres out of Broken Hill, south-east towards Lake Menindee. So we live in pastoral country.
How many acres have you got there, Brendan? Tell us, that you're managing.
Yeah, 150,000 acres, which is probably around about the average size, maybe a little bit bigger than the average size, but
Right.
you sort of need a bit of country to be able to run the stock numbers that we do. So, it's about average, but still a fair spread.
Well, it's a huge spread, really. Now, Brendan, you said in your book that you were sent away to boarding school when you were, well, very, very young, really, and that experience, it was pretty dire. So tell us a little bit more about that.
I spoke about that in the book because I figured for people to really understand who I am as a person and how my brain ticks, I really needed to go back to the age of 7. So from the age of 7, I started boarding. I
Right.
did a little bit of School of the Air through correspondence from the property, my parents' property, and went to Broken Hill. And I spent 12 months in with my grandparents and then a couple of years in hostels. And I had a couple of very ordinary experiences there, child abuse. And then I was sent away to Adelaide to do my schooling there, which was sort of a standard thing at the time. And in my first year down there, I had the same issue. So you could say that I suffered from childhood trauma, and
Absolutely.
it wasn't really good. Wasn't much good. I must admit.
It doesn't, it sounds very, very hard for such a very, very young boy. But now, Brendan, you did say in your book, and I love the book, I might add, and I'll tell our listeners more about that later, but your grandmother played a huge part in your and your brother Lachlan's life. I mean, I love where you and Lachlan played by the river as kids, with her sort of keeping a close eye on you. So she was very much part of your life, wasn't she?
Absolutely, Grandma Patty. And she was a bit of a botanist, actually, and also loved oil painting. So when my parents were busy, we would go over to Floods Creek Station where my grandparents lived. And we would play around in the gum creeks and, go hunting lizards. And certainly after a rain, also, Grandma would take us for a walk. We'd walk up to 5-10 Ks, only young kids, but
Yes.
it was nothing to do that. It was really simple and easy, and it was a wonderful part of our lives.
You build a beautiful picture, a verbal picture, which I could picture in my own mind of that time that you spent with her. But now, when you left school, I mean, you were incredibly happy to leave school, Brendan, and come home and work on your parents' property. So tell us a little bit about that time.
I was boarding for 10 years, so to escape, the rigours of school, which I didn't enjoy for many reasons, but to come home was just the most incredible experience for me, because the day that I'd left was the day I wanted to come back.
Right.
And I finished school very young, at the age of 16, year 12 actually, and I came home and I got to work with Dad and live on Mount Westwood, which was just the most wonderful stage of my life, knowing that I was back there. And I sunk my teeth into as much as I possibly could, working next to Dad and mustering sheep and
Yes.
cattle and whatever else was going on. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, it's very hard to explain, but really for me, it was everything to be back on the property, and
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 then
there's freedom that I can't explain.
I can understand. I went to boarding school myself, and I think I felt
Okay.
much the same about it. Not that I had a property like that to come home to. But, Brendan, you met your lovely wife, Jacinta, when you were very young. And after a few sort of ups and downs, you married. And you did return to work on the land and then your parents' property. So, yes, tell us a little bit about that time.
Yeah, look, I met my wife when I was 15. Sparks didn't fly then, but a few years later they did. And look, we've been married for 29 years now, and we have 3 lovely children, all adult kids now. But back in those days, Jacinta and I, once we got together, we did a lot of contracting. We mustered stock for other people and put pipelines and waters in, and did a number of things like that, working remotely. And then it got to a point where it would have been nice just to stay in a place, manage a place. So we started doing that.
Right.
And then we got the opportunity to go back to the property, Mount Westwood, where I was brought up on, and start managing that place, or at least help run that property for Mum and Dad. And so there was both myself and Jacinta and my parents on the place. And once again, another one of those moments where I'm thinking, it's incredible to be back here and sinking my teeth into this job. And our firstborn, Emma, she came along, and we lived in the shearers' quarters actually, and opened up some doorways in the shearers' quarters and whatnot, and that's where we were living
That
for
became
a period
home.
of time.
But I'm sure our listeners would be fascinated. I mean, had Jacinta had anything much to do with the land before she met you?
She was a Melbourne girl.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. But she had a love for the bush and the desert, and she used to come up with a mate.
Yes.
And she continued to do that. And she had this great desire to live in the bush, and she studied wool and fibre marketing. Yeah, and anyway, in the end, we got together, and then that was that. She moved and started living in the bush, and
But you
been
moved.
living in the bush ever since, mate.
Yeah, you moved then from your parents' property, I think, Brendan, didn't you, to the property that you're on now?
No, we actually moved from Mount Westwood. I had to walk away from Mount Westwood because there was, financially,
Yes.
the property wasn't able to sustain
Wasn't
us.
viable. Yeah.
And so we moved next door actually to a place called Avenel Station, and that property there was probably my first property where I got paid some really good money as a manager.
Yes.
And I was working for a consortium at the time, and we spent 7.5 years there. And we had our ups and downs there, but it was a good job. And then from that point, we moved across to Cars Station.
That's where you are
and
now. Yes.
Yeah, and been here for 10 years. So been in the game for a while now, Rosemary.
Absolutely. Now, Brendan, tell us when you first realised that something wasn't sort of quite right. You were suffering from depression and you felt that you needed help. So you took yourself, which I thought was a very brave thing to do, you took yourself into the hospital in Broken Hill and said, I need help. Tell us about that time.
Yeah, that was one of the toughest steps that I've had to take. And there was a fair lead up. And look, now I know what I know. It probably started all the way back to when I was 7, through childhood trauma and how to deal with that. But there was a number of things leading up to that. And one of the obvious ones was drought, a lot of predation, had to put a lot of stock down. And, that's really tough. The
Very hard.
other thing was, I used to dwell on the past a lot,
Yes.
and that was, yeah, I could never look forward. I constantly regurgitated these memories,
Right.
and I couldn't get rid of them. So there was mass brain fog,
Yes.
self-sabotage, lack of self-esteem, and alcohol become part of my life where I was self-medicating, and it got worse as I got older, and didn't drink during the day, but at night I used to enjoy a couple of beers, and that sort of rolled on
Right.
to more and more.
Yes.
And I suppose I tell a story about I was away on agistment with stock, and I couldn't get out of bed because of the workload and all the rest of it that was
Yes.
going on, and end up getting blood tests, and I had no testosterone left in my body.
Right.
So I was prescribed testosterone. I had to inject myself, but I didn't learn from that, Rosemary, and
Right.
just went back to doing what I did
Yes.
prior.
Yes.
And I remember standing in my kitchen talking to Jacinta, and I felt something go in my chest, and I thought I was having a heart attack, and I was terrified. And I just said to Sin, "Look, I think I'm having a heart attack here."
Right.
And anyway, got through that. It's probably a mass anxiety attack,
A panic attack,
and
sort of. Yes.
yeah, absolutely. And once again, I didn't learn from that, and just got on with it, and went to a life skills course for 2 days, more just to have a couple of days off, run by a lady called Jill Rigney. And at the end of the 2 days, I filled out a form, and a lot of the boxes I was ticking weren't really good. They were basically saying, you're worn out, you're tired, all the rest of it. And I thought long and hard about that, and I did what I talk about regularly, and that's taking the first step. And I drove to Broken Hill, and walked up into the Broken Hill Base Hospital and asked for help, and met a couple of clinicians at the time, and they literally diagnosed me on the spot.
Right.
It was incredible, really, because I needed to know what was going on with my life. I had no idea. I was
Yes.
spiraling out of control, and
It
and in a lot of ways,
it
living an
it's
unhealthy life.
It's wonderful that you were able to get help. And Brendan, as you say in your book, which is so true, I mean, you're working on a huge, huge property out there. You're spending a lot of time on your own, whether you're out checking fences or stock, and sadly having to shoot a lot of stock during droughts and things like that. As you say, there's a lot of time to be living in your own thoughts. So I think it is wonderful that you realised and, took yourself into the hospital to get help. Now, you're listening to Lots to Chat About. My guest today is Brendan Cullen, an outback farmer who swam the English Channel not once, but twice, and also the Catalina Channel. Now, tell us a little bit, Brendan. We'll move on to how did you get this dream to swim the English Channel start? I mean, did people think you had definitely gone absolute bonkers? I mean, living in the outback where you are?
I think they already thought that anyway, mate.
Right.
But look, my brother rang me up, and he said he was going to swim the Bondi to Bronte,
All right.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I said, well, I'll come along and I'll watch. I'll take my sneakers, and
Yes.
Lachlan's got one hand, and he's terrified of sharks. Yet he jumped in and did it, and I thought, you know what, I've got to have a piece of that. So I joined up with the Broken Hill Aquatic Swim Club in town here, and because I was only 60 kilometres away,
Right.
and I thought I can race in there and go for a swim, and it's sort of the swim journey started from there. But it wasn't until 2017, 18, where Jacinta and I went down to Melbourne, and I saw a brochure on the wall, English Channel qualifier, and it had an 8-hour, 6-hour, and a 2-hour swim there.
Yes.
And that's when I first met Mike Gregory, the tractor, my good mate, and incredible person. He's an an Australian open water swimmer Hall of Famer.
Right.
And I got in and did 2 hours in Port Phillip Bay in water that was less than 16 degrees. And Mike basically looked over at me just as I was getting out. I said, I'll jump in and I'll have a swim with you. So he got another half an hour out of me. And from that moment on, this relationship started, and come back to Broken Hill. And he said to me one day, he said, you should have a look at maybe having a crack at the channel. And I sort of scoffed at that at the time. And then I thought, you know what, why not? Let's just give
Why
it
not?
a go. Why not? And so basically my training started in 2019 for a 2021
Right.
channel swim. And that was a big commitment to make. And I'd been asked a few times, when do you think you could have a crack at it? And you're capable of having a go. And I said, well, probably back in 2015 when I walked into the Broken Hill Base Hospital and asked for help, because I would never have made that decision before.
Right.
And so in 2019, I started training.
In your dam part of the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Anywhere I could find water. Rosemary. Yeah, absolutely. So I swam in the Menindee Lakes.
Right.
There's a number of lakes in and around Menindee. So I swam there. The Broken Hill Pool,
Yes.
our dams, had to normalise channel swimming conditions. So the best way I could do that is swim through winter in murky water, a lot of fresh water.
Right.
Swim holes around here, and also jumped in ice baths, and also did the odd trip down to Melbourne and swam in Port Phillip Bay, and maybe a couple of swims on the east coast over towards Sydney. But the majority of my swimming was in the pool and the Menindee Lakes. And
right.
It was tough going. It was tough going. I mean, sometimes, depending on my work, I would drive my vehicle to a dam because it was running out of daylight, and
yes.
I would park the vehicle up on the dam bank and shine the lights into the water. God. And I'd swim in the dark at night under the headlights of my motorcar.
Incredible. Absolutely. And then you suddenly thought, okay, well, I'm ready to go. Well, you had to schedule it in, of course, with the organisers and that, but you decided that you would go. You had a terrific team, didn't you, Brendan, that went with you and helped you there. But now just tell us a little bit about that swim.
Oh, look, I remember catching the train to Dover, seeing the white cliffs of Dover, looking out towards France, and I'm thinking, geez, I'm here. I had an amazing team. I picked a team there that was going to be there for me if I didn't make it. And my team, some good friends, and they were on the boat with me, and my wife and my oldest daughter, my sister-in-law, were back on land, communicating back to people, and started on Shakespeare's Beach, actually, just outside of Dover. And basically adjusted the goggles and my swim cap and made sure everything was fine, and started swimming towards the boat that was waiting for me there. And I remember diving into the water and thinking, geez, this is cold. and swam up to the boat, and I was on the port side of the boat, and it was quite choppy, actually. It was reasonably rough.
Yes.
And I thought, geez, this is going to be a long journey. And actually, I think a couple of boats actually turned back around and went back to Dover. I didn't know any of this, of course. I handed myself over to my team, and I basically said, you guys, I don't care what you say to me. I won't take it personally. Just get me to France.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, just started swimming, and I was being fed every half an hour with sports goos.
You're not allowed to, can I just interrupt there just to our listeners? You're not allowed to even touch the boat, are you, really?
No, you're not allowed to hold onto the boat. You get fed with a lanyard and a drink bottle.
Yes.
And you just swim and keep swimming. So I was getting fed every half an hour.
Yes.
Got to about the, I suppose, 12-hour mark. as the sun was going down. And I had to adjust my goggles, or actually replace them from UV to clear, because I was
Right.
going into night. And that's quite difficult after 12 hours. It certainly was for me.
I would imagine.
And I remember looking up just before dark, and I could see France. I thought, my God, there's France. And I looked up again, and my coach yelled from the boat, "Put your bloody head down, mate." And so, meaning swim, because he always said to me, when you swim the channel, just swim until you hit something, meaning France. So that was ringing through my head. And the sun had gone down, and you really are just swimming next to the boat.
Yes.
And there's this small dull light out the side of the boat. So you're trying to stay inside the light, not drift into the dark.
Right.
And it was getting tougher and tougher, I must admit. And about 3 hours out, I started getting like I was getting a cold, and I couldn't breathe out my nose, and my shoulder was sore, and my bloody groin was
Yes.
playing up. And I had no idea where I was at that point, nor did I care. And I just kept swimming, and they kept feeding me and supporting me. And I got to a point where I had a feed, and Mike just yelled out, "Last feed, mate, last feed,"
Right.
which we spoke about. And last feed is the last feed before you hit France. I had blue tack in my ears,
Yes.
and I couldn't really hear him. I cottoned on eventually,
Right.
but in amazement, I just put my head down and kept swimming.
And then you
But
felt the sand.
well, that's it. I swam and swam and swim towards the light, mate, and then my left hand brushed through the sands of France.
Isn't that
And
incredible?
it's incredible. And Mike said, "Walk out, mate, get out, because you need to be clear of the
Yes.
ocean."
And you went and collected, I remember reading in the book, Brendan, you collected little stones and that off the beach for your children, because you were, I mean, they would be so excited that you'd done it.
Well, I was delirious.
Yes.
So I took off and looked for some stones. And anyway, I couldn't find them. I was on the sandiest beach of France. And Mike said to me, "Get back in the boat, mate. You know, you've lost the plot." And,
Yes.
to be truthful, he was right. I'd completely lost it by then. And, the journey was 17 hours exactly, and covered a distance of 64 kilometres.
Gosh, Brendan, but then you went back and you did it again as part of a relay. And then, of course, you decided that, you'd go to America and you'd do the Catalina Channel also. So you're certainly a devil for punishment.
A glutton for
A
punishment,
glutton,
they
I
say.
should say. I think,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, all the other swims were fantastic. The relay was great because I got to see what was in the ocean for the
yes,
first time, and cheer my teammates on. And the Catalina was extraordinary as well. I mean, the ocean is different over there, and there's a lot more big fish in Catalina, but it was a night swim. So, and the bioluminescence was something
right.
else in the water. It was amazing.
And Brendan, after achieving all of this, which is a most amazing feat, how do you feel that really helped your mental state?
Oh, look, just meeting the open water swimming community they're the most positive community that I've ever had anything to do with, to be quite truthful. And just the swimming community alone. So as far as boosting your mental state, I think, it's they're natural endorphins. You get it from people. You get
Yes.
it from, exercise, and it's the perfect space to be in. So, it's part of my life now. And whether I achieved what I've achieved or didn't, just getting in the water for me and having a crack was everything. It was about trying to get to the other side, and I'm certainly in a lot better headspace now than I ever was, Rosemary.
And I would imagine, Brendan, that within your roles with Lifeline and the Royal Doctor Flying Service, that you'd advise other people that are suffering from depression or other mental disabilities to do the same, get out there and exercise.
Oh, it's a powerful message. Yeah.
Yes.
I've worked with the RFDS and Lifeline, and there are people out there that are struggling, And, if my message can resonate with these people, at least, give them a boost to go out and do something that they're not used to doing. I think it's so important. I mean, it's important to say yes and have a crack.
Have a crack. Not necessarily at the English Channel, but to get out there and go for a good brisk walk and get the endorphin sort of working. But Brendan, sadly we're running out of time, and Paul's waving through me at the window, through the window at me, I should say. I just want to give our listeners a little bit about your book, because the book is called The Desert Swimmer. It's out now, it's in bookstores, and it's online. Now, it's also on Audible, isn't it, Brendan?
Correct.
Do you read it yourself?
No. A bloke called Shane Emmett has narrated the book. Yeah.
But it's terrific that it's on Audible, because many of our listeners are sight impaired, not all, of course, but many are. So it is terrific that they can get out there and listen to your book. It's again called The Desert Swimmer. It is available in bookshops. It's also available online. And as I said, it's available on audio as well. Now, if people want to contact you, Brendan, is it a possibility that they can do that? Or would it be best if they contact us here and we can put them in touch with you?
Oh, no, they can get in touch with me if they like. I'll give you my mobile number.
Perhaps have you got a web page, or
yes,
the web
absolutely.
page would be terrific.
Yep, www.brendancullen, or you can contact me via Instagram on the.desert.swimmer. And I do my damnedest to get back to anyone that reaches out to me. I don't like leaving anyone hanging, Rosemary, so you will hear from me if you message me.
That's absolutely wonderful, Brendan. And look, thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been wonderful, and congratulations again on the incredible achievements that you have achieved. And, it's just been wonderful to talk to you. So Brendan's email is www.brendancullen.com.au. Thank you, Paul, for producing, and this program has been produced in the studios of 4RPH Reading Radio in Brisbane for syndication around Australia, and will be available on my YouTube channel, Lots to Chat About, with Rosemary Peterswald. But thank you very much again, Brendan Cullen, and thank you, Paul, for producing.
Great friends and great chats. That was another Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald. Stay tuned next week for another amazing chat.